Welcome to Dead Man Talking. Tonight's story is by the incredibly talented MortifyMore over on Reddit No Sleep. As ever, please do let me know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid crew. But without further ado, let's get into tonight's story, entitled I Killed a Man to Escape a Snowstorm. Let's get straight into that. The call came in the late evening. The orange in the sky had left and all the animals had burrowed away, anticipating the storm heading north. I was on the outskirts of Cadence, eating a Milky Way and watching the stars disappear behind the clouds. The cruiser's phone rang and dispatch notified me a man had wrecked on Route 16, heading south to Lilac. What happened was the storm had covered a road, which is normally empty at night. Cadence is a small town and Lilac is an even smaller one. The only people that drive down Route 16 are the farmers needing groceries, and they're never out that late. I figured the wreck was a outsider, somebody who didn't know the roads tend to be unsalted since the town saves money by giving that job to the sun. Dispatch told me a tow was on the way, but it would be at least an hour. The guy would feel safer with the cops there. But small towns have small forces, and it was my night on patrol. I'd have to do. I finished my Milky Way and drove off. Minutes on the road and the white winds already rushed past the car. The dashboard said 45, but the winds made it feel like it pushed 70. I worried I would miss the wreck, and that the winds might actually make me a new victim. But in the distance I saw the red brakes, then the black of a sedan. I flipped my lights, parked 10 feet away, wishing I had remembered my snow hat. I didn't bother getting my clipboard, just my flashlight, though even that felt useless against the constant white. The wreck was as I suspected, slid off the road into a nearby ditch, one lower than your average curb. Even without ice, backing up would have been an act of God. As I approached, I nearly slipped myself. I had to catch myself on nothing. The front of the sedan was caked in snow deep in the ditch, but the driver's side door, it was ajar. I stepped down into the ditch, pulled the door open more. The car was running, but not the heat. My flashlight revealed an empty car. I turned, looked around the street and nearby cornfields painted red and blue by the cruiser lights. Where was the man? I walked around the car, inspected the underside. Nothing. I popped the trunk. Empty. Back on the street, I looked over the car again. Something about it was off, beyond the mystery of the missing man. What it was, I couldn't put my finger on it, but despite the clear nosedive into the snow, the sedan, it was clean, almost immaculate. I took another look and realized there was no license plate, not even a temporary one. Hello? I asked the cold world. Only the wind replied. Back in the cruiser, I was thinking of where the man went, letting the heat blast against my face. He could have gone south, taken his chance with the storm towards Lilac. Anybody, outsider or not, would have known that that was suicide though. And the cornfields nearby. Maybe he ran into those, hoped he would find a warm farmhouse. Now he's about to call it in. I put a lookout for the guy trying to survive the snowstorm on foot when I heard it. A dog barking. I was by the wreck, and then came another sound, though I couldn't make it out inside the cruiser. Outside, the wind bared its teeth on me, howled in demand to go away, but underneath was the dogs barking. Barking, and then gone. A man's voice asked, "Is everything all right?" The dog started barking again. One of the farmers must have heard the wreck, come to investigate. I started towards the wreck, telling the farmer that it was under control. Except, what was the farmer doing out in the storm? Halfway there I stopped, realized that nothing was making sense. The missing guy, an unknown car, and now this. I saw a canine shape move into view from behind the car. The dog. It hadn't stopped barking, and I worried it would come at me, and that things might get dicey out here. The other officers had a running gag that out here, that the local dogs never liked pigs. But this one, it stayed put, barking and barking, until it wasn't, and the man was asking me if everything was okay again. The question hung in the air. Something churned in my stomach. The dog resumed its barking for a few seconds, and then stopped, and the man asked the same question for the third time. And it hit me. The barking. The man's voice. It came from the same place. I shone my flashlight at the dog and felt the blood grip my face. It was no dog. A humanoid shape, blasted into obscurity by the winter veil, looked up at me. Is everything all right? It started running, crawling towards me. Before I realized what was happening, there was a gunshot, and I was standing in a snowstorm looking down at the body of a man. I held my breath as I waited for the snow to turn red and let the wind bite my nose, frost my unblinking eyes. But the blood, it never ran. And what happened instead was the thing shuddered and he started gagging. The bullet was then spat out. I ran to the cruiser to drive away. There was no other option. I slammed the car door, cranked the key. The car rumbled in disagreement and wouldn't start. In my head, I was screaming with the wind, wondering how hard you need to palm slap a wheel to fuel a car with desperation. Barking interrupted my thoughts. I started to blubber to myself. All those years wanting to be a cop suddenly going out of my ears and melting to the floor. A hand smacked onto the window and I screamed. I slammed the car wheel harder, turned the key enough to snap it, and from outside the thing asked me if everything was okay. And I just kept screaming. The car suddenly started. Foot down, reverse, brake, foot down, going, leaving whatever the hell that was behind. And while the snow blew past, while I tried to stop myself from blubber breathing, I wondered what all had just happened, what I had just wandered into. Things like that, they don't ever have answers, just more questions. I just started asking, why? That word was on my lips when the car started to swerve, and in that moment, I did everything wrong. Forgot all of my training in the frenzy. The cruiser flipped on its side and I was lucky not to be crushed. I was crawling out of the window when two headlights cut through the snow right at me. The next thing I saw was a large man getting out of the truck. It was the tow. He was rushing over to me and asking me if I was okay. All I could do was mumble. He helped me to my feet and walked me over to the truck. My head was turned behind us the entire time, waiting to see that naked figure walking down the road. The inside of the truck smelled like sweat, and to this day, I remember it. He was on the street, me in the truck, and he was asking me details. Where I had to be and that he was sent out for another, and I had been the officer they sent out. And I couldn't answer him. It felt unreal. And when I looked out of the windshield to the cold forever, I saw an outline and began to cough and to gag. I heard the trucker ask what the hell was going on, and then he was walking towards it. I got out, told him to stay away, and ran to him to shake his shoulders. Except I didn't. That wreck had, numbed me. And so I just stood there, mouthing words and shaking my head side to side as in no to the trucker's back. And then it happened. The thing was in the air, and then on the trucker. That blood that was supposed to come earlier at the gunshot. It must have jumped through time, because a shower burst from the trucker. There was a scream, and all I saw was a cloud of red. I opened my mouth to scream, but kept coughing. In the movies, the monster realizes it's been seen, looks up from its fresh kill and starts gibbering towards the new meat. But the thing never moved from that trucker's body. And I knew it was just going to finish eating him, or God knows what else. And so, like a coward, I got into the truck. I pulled out my shaking hands onto the wheel and hit the gas. I didn't even run over the thing. I just rushed past it, not letting myself look over, for fear the thing would be looking at me, for fear the trucker would be too. And I drove all the way to Lilac. I fell out of the truck and into the snow-covered parking lot of the Dollar General. In dreams I still see that store. And at the counter is the trucker, his blood coursing down onto the conveyor belt. He's mouthing something and I can't quite hear it. Sometimes he's barking instead. I never look outside to the parking lot to see if that thing's out there. And the next morning, I called in my resignation. When they asked why, I just hung up. A friend in a force told me that they eventually went out to search for the trucker, since his wife called terrified he'd met an unseen fate in the storm. They never found him. I remember laughing at the news, though I couldn't tell you why. In the coming days they tried pulling me in for a statement, answer why the guy's truck sat battery dead at the Dollar General, but I was heading south to somewhere, anywhere the snow avoided. I expected to be chased, either by my old colleagues or that thing. Somehow, but it never happened. Since then I've read up on what it could be, dug up the past to figure out my present. If you ask me, I still couldn't tell you what I saw. But I remember the old stories my father used to talk about, of bandits on the roads, and how these bandits would stage fake accidents, take advantage of the kindness of others, and how that still happened to this very day. Except instead of men in cowboy hats, they're entire groups. A strength in numbers thing, I guess. But I'm told it's rare. And at first, that explanation didn't quite fit. But the world's a strange place, and if caterpillars can look like snakes, well, maybe something watched from the shadows when people use those fake accidents. Watch people get killed for being too trusting, scrounged up the looted bodies left behind. And when those old-time highwaymen stopped their trade, there was a dwindling of fresh prey. Evolution. Does it explain it? I don't know. But it's the best I've got when I look up at the night sky. I haven't had a Milky Way in years, but that doesn't make up for what I did. Maybe one day I'll go back, stand in a snowstorm by a mysterious car, and do what I should have done back then. Maybe the storm will die down and the thing's face will be revealed. And maybe I'll look into the stolen eyes of the trucker and whisper, "I'm sorry." Wow, 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 wow. Certainly another one. Wow. Absolutely incredible, desolate feeling story there from the fantastic mind of MortifyMore over on Reddit. Of course, as ever, you know the drill here, guys and girls. Please do let me know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help with the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid crew. If you're an aspiring writer or would just like to have a crack at things, why not get in touch with myself at the usual email as on screen, which is dmtforresterfear@gmail.com. I really look forward to hearing from you. Hope everybody's having a great week at work or studying, whatever it is that you do, and are trying to keep fit and focused during these testing times. But above all, guys, remember, be safe, not sorry.